Have you ever felt stuck? You know, that heavy feeling, that weight on your conscience, when you know something's off, but you just don't know what to do next? It's a kind of paralysis, isn't it? Well, today, we're diving into some ancient wisdom from Psalm 32 that gives us a really surprising way forward when that feeling of conviction feels more like a trap than a path to freedom. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the problem itself, the weight of silence. Then we'll use a cool visual, an overexposed heart, to see what's really going on inside us. We'll ask why we get stuck in the first place, and then we'll hit the big turning point, this idea that clarity actually comes after we obey, and we'll wrap it all up with the one thing that makes this whole journey possible, the promise of forgiveness.
So first up, the weight of silence. You know, we often think the problem is the mistake we made. But this psalm, it points to something else, that crushing effect that comes not from the sin, but from the silence that follows it.
I mean, listen to that. That's King David writing from a really raw place. He's talking about a deep, personal exhaustion, something that was draining him physically and spiritually. It's that feeling of knowing something's wrong, but just not doing anything about it. His inaction became the real burden.
So this is absolutely crucial. We have to redefine what we're even talking about. Conviction, in this sense, isn't God trying to pin you to a wall. It's an invitation. It's God shining a light on something, not to shame you, but to restore you, to bring back joy and clarity and the ability to just move forward again.
Now, to really get what this silence does to us, let's borrow a powerful idea from the world of photography. Let's talk about the overexposed heart. Think about your inner life, your heart, as a photograph being developed. God's conviction is like the photographer adjusting the settings. It's meant to bring the whole picture into sharp, crystal clear focus so you can see things exactly as they are.
But what happens when we choose silence? When we refuse to make that adjustment? Well, we introduce a distortion. All that clarity gets lost. The image of our own heart becomes blurry, hazy, and just really hard to read. And this is a perfect illustration of what David is describing. His heart felt just like an overexposed photo, completely washed out, no detail, spiritually exhausted. All because the light of conviction was shining, but he refused to adjust the lens by confessing and taking action. So this leads to a pretty big question. If staying silent is so draining, why on earth do we do it? Let's unpack some of the flawed logic and the hidden fears that keep us totally frozen in place. Do any of those sound familiar? I mean, they can feel so wise, right? So spiritual. We tell ourselves we're just being patient or honest. But a lot of the time, these are just really sophisticated excuses that are masking a deep misunderstanding of what God is actually asking us to do. And this gets to a critical difference. See, biblical waiting isn't passive at all. It's an active dependence. It's like aiming the camera, getting ready for the shot. But that passive waiting David was stuck in, that's basically just leaving the lens cap on and hoping a picture magically appears. And David testifies to exactly what this kind of waiting does. He probably thought his silence was protecting him, maybe from embarrassment or the discomfort of having to change. But in reality, it was just sucking the very life and strength out of him that he was trying so hard to protect.
So how does this cycle break? Well, the psalm gives us this incredible turning point where everything that was stuck and heavy and blurry, it suddenly shifts, all with one single action. Now, pay really close attention to the order here. This is everything. David says, I acknowledged my sin, and then you forgave. He moved first. He acted while the tension was still there, while his feelings hadn't caught up, while he didn't have it all figured out. He adjusted the lens before the picture felt resolved.
And look at God's response. It isn't, finally, you got it together. No, it's, okay, now that you're moving, I will instruct you. I will teach you the way to go. The guidance came after the step of obedience. So here it is, the main point. We have it completely backward most of the time. We wait for this perfect feeling of clarity before we're willing to act. But this psalm teaches that the movement itself is what creates the momentum. The very act of obedience is what brings the clarity we were waiting for all along. So what does this actually look like? Well, a faithful step forward isn't fixing your whole life at once. It's just choosing one small, clear area of obedience. It's responding to that nudge of conviction instead of waiting for the heavy feeling to magically disappear.
It's simply taking one step toward God and trusting Him with the rest. But let's be honest, taking that step can feel terrifying. So what makes it safe? What gives us the courage to actually move? It's the foundation that this entire psalm is built on. The psalm starts and ends right here, with blessing, with forgiveness. This means our obedience doesn't earn us forgiveness. It's the other way around. It's because we're already forgiven in Christ that we are free to obey without being afraid of condemnation. Forgiveness is the starting line, my friends, not the finish line.
So let's make this personal for a minute. Let's just sit with this. Where in my life, or in your life, have we mistaken silence for wisdom, when maybe it was just fear? And how about this one? Is there a specific action, maybe a tough conversation or a decision, that you're putting off because you're waiting for your heart to feel different or for the timing to be absolutely perfect? And finally, let's try to reframe that feeling of pressure. What if that heaviness you feel isn't a weight meant to crush you, but a steady, firm hand on your shoulder meant to guide you into a new, better direction? Because ultimately, the invitation of Psalm 32 is to get unstuck. It reminds us that real biblical waiting isn't about standing frozen in the dark. It is walking forward, one step at a time, trusting that the God who forgives is also the God who is faithful to lead.